It's the Green Rush Nation podcast. I just had the bluest dream that you've ever seen, and I can't believe that shit was green, cause it hit so clean, and my history is a mystery. I don't give a fuck, I just hit the tree on a 5th degree. We don't pit for free. If you don't got 5, shit, get up and leave. It's the Green Rush Nation podcast.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy B-GUNZ here on the Green Rush Nation podcast. Today we have a very special guest. He's been in the industry for a long time. Everything organic, as you can see. It's our friend Indicus from Galactic Farms. We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
How was the ride out? Wasn't too bad. I know you said you made your schedule work.
We like road trips, so it was amazing. Got to do it with my wife. So
It's
spent
always
some
a
good
beautiful
quality time together on the road.
Good.
So
Good.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
And you said you guys were down in San Diego?
We were down in San Diego. Yeah, we were actually attending a conference that our friend helps put on. It's the Conference of Consciousness and Human Evolution.
That sounds super interesting.
It is super
Very
interesting. It's that's what's up, you know.
And is that like a multiple day thing, or is
Yeah, multiple day things, speakers, panels,
Very cool.
lots of people.
I'm gonna have to make it after one of those ones.
Yeah, they'll have it another one I think in Palm Springs in May.
Okay.
They have them all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah, and our good friend helps coordinate the one there in San Diego, and also travels to all the different conferences that they have around the globe. So
Beautiful.
it's a pretty big movement. It's an amazing thing. I'm sure y'all, would love to tap into something like that.
Absolutely.
If you're into like consciousness and lifting the vibration here on this planet, which needs to happen right now.
That's for damn
Big
sure.
time,
I
right?
agree. We need to come together.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
We do. It's time. Far past time.
I agree. Speaking of coming together, I think marijuana is something that does bring people together quite often. As you can see, we're here. We're together now because of this plant.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of a background, like your story. How did you really get into? How were you introduced to cannabis in your life?
Okay, so yeah, my name is Indicus. My dad named me after Indica. Indicus is the masculine form of the word indica. It's
Okay.
Latin, right? It just means, all it means is of India. We're from India.
Interesting.
So that's basically where, the indica plant came from, out of that whole Nepal.
The Himalayan.
Yeah, to
Okay.
that whole region, right? So I was born in Austin, Texas, 1981. My dad was growing weed there in Austin, Texas back then, where you would get life in prison for like a joint. He had taken a shop in the back of our home and converted it into a greenhouse, and then was smuggling in all his stuff from Mexico, from Chiapas and Oaxaca, and that's where he got his strains, and started from that Chiapas seed stock.
Wow.
So yeah, that's basically the origin story. So we lived there only for like about a year and a half after I was born, because he lived right on the outskirts of University of Texas, and they were expanding. Eminent domain, bought his place.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, where am I going to grow weed at now? Basically searched around and moved us to the Caribbean. 2 different islands. We lived on Montserrat,
Okay.
and then Dominica, trying to, grow weed there, but it didn't really work out. It kind of stick out like a sore thumb. There are a bunch of white
I
people
would
from
imagine.
from the U.S. coming to try to grow weed on these little tiny islands. So made our way back to the U.S., lived in New Mexico for a little bit, where my younger brother was born.
Okay.
I've got 7 siblings.
Wow.
Big family. And then again, he was back to that point, where am I going to grow weed at?
Yeah.
Remembered about Humboldt County, read some High Times magazines. I was like, yep, that's it. So moved us to Humboldt. That would have been like 1986.
Okay. So your dad was way ahead of the curve. He knew what was going on.
Yeah, and it was already going on in Humboldt at that time,
Okay.
too. So upon arriving, it was in the heyday of what was called CAMP, the Campaign Against Marijuana Production. And so that was a really militarized kind of operation, where the federal government came in with the military. You saw convoys of military trucks, Black Hawk helicopters, raiding people's farms, holding kids at gunpoint.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was pretty bad scene. Like
All
check
for a plant.
all for a plant.
That's
you
crazy.
know, and
That's crazy.
that's all part of this. This plant has been suppressed for, gosh, over 100 years now. Where we have always had this like evolutionary relationship with this plant. It's one of the first domesticated plants uh, in the world.
Yeah.
It goes back 10,000 or more years that we know of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, all for a plant that we've evolved with over time.
Yeah.
Right.
That's natural. That hasn't really harmed anyone.
No. I mean, and you look at the relationship that how this plant affects us, right? And the different cannabinoid compounds that are within it.
Yep.
Many of them fit the receptors in our brain. It's like a key to a lock.
Exactly.
And the endocannabinoid system.
They're already in there.
Yeah, it's already in there. And so it's really like a tool to help, in my opinion, consciousness and transformational change within us all.
Yeah.
And like you said, bringing it together, here we are.
That's for sure.
Again, this plant works in mysterious ways.
It sure does. It
Yeah.
sure does. And it does different things for different people. Some people take it because they need to take it and they feel like they're ill, or some people need to take it because they want to be creative. Some people just like to take it because they like to have a good time,
Absolutely.
And there's a purpose for everyone, which I think is really cool as well.
Yeah.
So obviously, heavy background in your family into the cannabis. When did it turn over to the business side for you? When you're like, you know what, I'm gonna start farming and doing all that other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would have been, upon getting into Humboldt, he realized, he didn't want to expose all these children he has to that operation going on. So he decided to become a teacher. Right. So it was about, maybe, gosh, by the time I was about 17, so he had moved us out of the country by then. And so you couldn't get away from weed if you live out in the country in Humboldt.
Yeah.
Everybody was growing weed. And people, it was all around.
Yeah.
So, my brother and I had already started partaking quite heavily. We grew up with it. One of the first jobs I remember is my dad handing me a bag of weed and saying, will you pick out all the good seeds and you could go ahead and eat the white ones, the ones that are no good. And I'm like, okay, Dad. I'm like 5, 6 years old doing this stuff, right? And so that's just how I grew up, it was just a part of our life. So eventually my brother and I as teenagers, we were spending like our lunch money on it. And I'm like, why don't we just put some plants down along the river out in the forest? So we live on this beautiful property. That's where my wife and I live now.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So, it became a major part of my income. I would say probably like early 2000s. My brother and I and my dad, we had a good size outdoor garden that we do every summer, and we'd split it all.
And did it start more like just like locally, like more word of mouth, like, hey, we got some good stuff, come by it, or was it like, you know what, we're gonna market this as like our business?
It would have been more like more of a word of mouth thing. We were pretty connected.
It's the best kind of business.
Yeah, exactly. And we were always known for growing pretty good outdoor weed. And so that definitely we're able to build on that sort of reputation and then actually, pursue it as a business. And we got a place and started growing indoor as well, which I don't do anymore, but, it served its purpose. We do what we got to do.
Doing both, how was like what were the differences? Were there benefits?
Yeah, definitely benefits. For indoor, nobody really knows you're doing it, except when you're trying to like sneak your soil in, like, so there was only those sort of scenarios where like maybe you could tip somebody off. Otherwise, it was really discreet. So that's the benefit of being able to do indoor. You could be somewhere where it's completely prohibited. So you're like, okay, well, we got to cover it up, put it in a room.
Production wise, like, were you able to pump out more and more frequently indoor?
No, because the scale was so much bigger outdoor.
Gotcha.
Eventually, that's what I saw, the writing on the wall. I'm like, okay, well, I can't keep doing indoor. It's expensive, all the bills, electricity and all that. And then the market did take a hit like 2008.
Yeah.
A pretty heavy hit. And I'm like, well, I might as well just divert all this energy and money I'm putting into just getting more properties where I could do farms. So I'd get leases and partnerships and just kind of stop doing the indoor and just focus on doing outdoor.
Okay.
So I had a few different farms. Well, I've had several farms that I basically have built up from the ground, and all sorts of different locations in Humboldt County, from places like Willow Creek, Honeydew, out Highway 36 area, which is another pretty big growing region.
Okay.
And then our own little place that we had, which is in Stafford, the family place. And pretty much was doing all that, like running or doing the rat race of growing lots of weed and having all these kind of sketchy partnerships with people I probably should not have been in business with. I'm sure we've all been across stuff like that. But you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And would have been 2019 was a big turning point for us. My dad passed away. So yeah, 2019 was a big turning point for me in the business when our dad passed away, right? And that was, a sudden, unexpected thing. We had been, dealing with quite a bit of death in our family. We lost my sister.
Wow, I'm sorry.
And my niece, her daughter, all within this, like a 9-year time period. Man. So trying to deal with all that, trying to cope with it, and then when Dad went, it really affected me. But it gave me time and an opportunity to reflect on my life and what I was doing and what type of energy I was attracting and putting into this plant.
Yeah. And
my relationship with the plant. So pretty much realized that what I wanted to do in the business was cut the rat race out, focus on the farm that I had been operating with, with my brother and dad as, in my younger years. And he was going through the legal process, trying to get it licensed and doing all that stuff. I had already done 2 farms, gotten them licensed, and did it all myself. No consultants.
Okay, wow.
Did everything.
I'm sure you learned a lot during those processes.
Learned a whole lot. Yep. And so I'm like, okay, well, I just want to refocus my energy on Dad's place, make sure we keep that land and get his farm license, and that's what I want to do. It's just a small place. It's only about 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
Light dep production. So that gave me that opportunity to reorient my energy into the reason why I really, I think got involved with it in the first place, which was developing this, this connection with this plant, this relationship that, I had but kind of grew away from in the rat race for money.
Yeah. The business side of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so that's what I did. And through that process, I've also gotten heavily involved with a lot of advocacy work, a lot of policy, a lot of cooperative development.
Okay.
So I'm also sit on the board of the directors for the Humboldt County Growers Alliance.
Wow.
Which is our local Growers Alliance up there. We do a lot of work in the state with legislation and policy.
Beautiful.
In coordination with our partner organization, the Origins Council, which handles all the policy work on the state and federal level.
Okay.
So we're also present federally,
wow.
Trying to influence stuff and make stuff happen.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I think we're at a turning point right now that I think this could be history that we see in the next couple of years, and I'm hoping because that opens up a whole new can of worms,
Yeah.
But in a good way, good way.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with this new administration.
Yes.
And the new farm bill that's going to be coming out, because that's also has affected our industry in a lot of different ways. The legalization of THC-A and hemp.
Oh yeah, all that, the
guys,
loophole stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you could go online now and you could order THC-A and get it delivered to your front door in 49 states.
Which is crazy.
Except for Idaho, right? Which is crazy. And it's the same weed that is right here,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. And it's not regulated.
And it's not regulated.
Yeah.
There's no testing standards. Consumers don't know what they're consuming.
Exactly.
You know,
Scary.
It is
Scary
scary
stuff.
And it's affecting the bottom line for all of us, making it harder for us that have jumped through all these hoops through, you know, multiple different agencies and, you know, just to be able to get a license to cultivate. And then it's tracked and traced and inspected. And it's just like, it's so much. It's like, it's not uranium.
Yeah.
It's a plant,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
they don't track under other industries like that. So, like, you know, it's crazy to see, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we do. And again, just getting back to that, it will be interesting to see what does happen with the Farm Bill, the administration, you know, and on a federal level, we have a bill that we've put in called the SHIP Act.
Okay.
And that is been introduced by our congressman up there, Jared Huffman. And so the SHIP Act, what that would do would allow any farm, outdoor farm, an acre or less, allow you to do the same thing, you know, hemp producers can do, ship directly. It'll also allow indoor farmers of a certain size, mixed light of a certain size, and even retailers, equity retailers.
That would be a game changer.
That would be a game changer.
For sure.
Yeah, we just need to build support and get more representatives to sign on to the bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to push it forward.
Hopefully, it seems like people are more open to push it, just looking at the benefits of, like, I mean, tax purposes. You know, we can fix pretty much everything, right?
Yeah.
Look at Colorado when they went legal. You know, they had so much money they didn't even know what to do with it anymore. You know, they're like, all right, we fix everything. Like, now what do you guys want to do?
Right.
So hopefully we could do that on a national scale, and that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But getting back into, like, the farming side of things, like, what is regenerative farming?
Okay, yeah. So I am a Sun and Earth certified farm.
Okay.
And so that is like a regenerative, you have to be a regenerative farm in order to get that certification.
Okay.
And so regenerative farming is basically as it sounds. You regenerate your soil, you know, naturally with organic inputs.
Okay.
And preferably, you know, things that you produce yourself, whether it's like adding more organic matter to your native soil through your own compost, through your own animal manure, chicken manure, wood chips, you know, just anything, any type of organic matter will help regenerate your soil and keep that microbiome that's existing and alive and thriving in your dirt. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's the way to go for me because I'm able to do it that way. I've got the land. I've got amazing soil where I could plant right in the ground.
Yeah.
We get good sun. And for me personally, again, going back to my transition from like the rat race to more of a spiritual connection with this plant, I feel it's more tapped into the earth that way.
Absolutely.
And I think that the energy that brings it's represented in the final product, and then even the people that consume it at the end, they could feel that too. Everything.
Yep. It's like, you know, someone, like, you say you're cooking a meal for you. If they put love into it, you can feel that love.
Exactly.
You know?
That's you're right on point. That's exactly the same thing. It's the same thing. It's that intention, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it was cool. Like, this is all kind of new to me. And they had me up at their grow facility for the first time. That was my first time seeing anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the coolest thing to me was to see just every person in every sector of it, how much they loved the plant and they connected with it. And I was like, wow, like, that's how you know you're going to get a good product, because these people really care, you know?
That's so important.
It's cool.
When your people have a smile on their face and they're like, I love this.
Happy to be there.
Happy to be working with this plant.
Absolutely.
You know, it doesn't matter if it's indoor or outdoor, you know, as long as the people there are happy and they're putting that good energy into it, it will be reflected.
That matters. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now, as far as like regenerative farming goes, people, or maybe even just the younger generation that's looking to get into that, what kind of advice do you have for them?
Well, I would advise them to, you know, kind of do what I did and reflect upon their relationship with that plant. You know,
connect
as long
more
as
to it.
as long as they're coming from a place of good intention. You know, I used to think, You know, like, oh, my name is Indicus, and I was actually born at 4:20 p.m. too.
Damn. So you were just made for this.
I'm like, I was meant for this.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm like, okay, like, what am I meant for? Like, not for like the industry itself. I feel like I am meant to be helping this plant, having this relationship for this plant, advocating for the plant.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I would, anybody that's getting involved in this, especially younger folks, you know, yeah, you can make a living. You can make in some cases a good living. And especially if you're coming from a place of good intention.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I would advise people. Look at your relationship with this plant. Why are you really doing it? Do you love it, or are you just in it for the money? Because that's gonna determine, you know, the future that you're developing with your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. And I hear this over and over again from just people that I've been interviewing. It's like most of the time the people that are just getting into it for the money, it's like they don't last very long because they don't have a relationship with the plant. They don't know the dynamic behind it. They just think it's like any other business and they're going to make a bunch of money, but like that's not the case.
Right, right. The best investment is the one that you know, that connection that you're trying to build with the plant.
Absolutely.
You know, that heart connection. So.
Absolutely. And now, obviously, you've been doing the marijuana for a long time, but I see some honey on the table over here. You want to just tell us a little bit about that?
So the honey, that's pretty much all my wife. She's an amazing beekeeper. She's a master beekeeper. She's
shout out to the wife.
Actually.
Yep.
Good job, babe. And so yeah, she got us into bees maybe 5 years ago now.
Okay.
During COVID, right? We were like, oh, what are we gonna do on this property? Well, let's get bees. And so she went ahead and like went to the university, took all the classes there, and you know, is a master beekeeper in my opinion.
Wow.
And so yeah, so we're still doing it. Like the bees are amazing. That's another kind of like just an amazing kind of connection that we're able to develop with this other, you know, like another relationship that human beings have had with this insect.
Yeah.
You know, where it's been like this evolving relationship. They need us, we need them.
That's for sure.
And she's gotten, you know, expanded into that a little bit more. So in several of the cities in Humboldt County, we've decriminalized a lot of entheogenics, which is, you know, like plants that, like psychedelic plants.
Psychoactive.
So,
you
know, mushrooms, psychedelics, and so she's gotten into that sort of microdosing aspect of that whole world to try to help people through her own kind of journey.
Absolutely.
And she has been able to integrate that with the honey as well, and create this awesome therapeutic and awesome tasting product.
Awesome.
Microdosing honey.
Yeah.
Even
if I'm not mistaken, from what I've been told, is this product made from the honey? Like the bees actually like go to the plant or the mushrooms, and then they make the honey after harvesting the pollen?
Yeah, no,
wow.
no.
Okay,
so
okay.
yeah, that doesn't really happen like that. And I was talking with our boy Steven over there too about how can you make like cannabis honey? Do bees collect the pollen or the nectar and then make cannabis infused honey? It doesn't really work like that.
I figured it kind of didn't make too much sense.
Yeah, because the female flower doesn't produce nectar. It produces resins.
Yeah.
And the male flower does produce pollen, which of course they could go to that because they do eat pollen. That's what they feed their young.
Yep.
But cannabis has evolved to pollinate through the wind. It's a wind pollination plant. So the wind blows the pollen, and sticks to the sticky flowers, fertilizes them, and that's how it gets seeds, right? So it doesn't rely on any insect to do that. It just relies on, you know, the natural
nature
blow of the wind, right?
Interesting. And now it makes sense to me more why it is so sticky.
Yeah. That's exactly. It's to attract the pollen, to get the pollen to stick. So when you withhold pollen or the male plants, they get stickier and stickier. They're like, why am I not getting pollen?
Yeah.
You know, and so you get, you know, better and better bud, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, with bees, they don't mess with mushrooms either. They will go to our female plants when they're in bud, and they will sometimes, what it seems like at least, collect resins, that, you know, the stickiness from the bud, and then they'll bring that back to their hives, and they'll use it. They make a special glue called propolis, It's a really sticky glue. It's kind of how they glue everything together and seal holes, and it's actually really, really good for you.
Very cool.
Your immune system and everything. So there could be, cannabis inside that propolis, so you could get some benefits from that.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's a pretty complex kind of process if you were to try to make like infused honey with cannabis.
I would imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I'm not, there's some people that do it. The only way I could think of doing it, like if you want an actual honey that the bees make, where it's got it during the winter times and during times where the bees don't have enough food, you have to make nectars for them. Which is basically just sugar water. And so you make this nectar, you put it in their hive, and they'll feed it.
Okay.
So what you can do, you can infuse that nectar you make, like with maybe some tincture, get cannabis in there somehow, and then they could probably take that nectar and then make a cannabis honey.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so that would be the way to do it.
So these are not cannabis honeys. These
are mushroom honeys.
Okay.
And so basically what she does, she takes, her specific dose, because it's for microdosing. It's not going to get you all, out
crazy.
there.
Yep.
Right. She'll take a small amount. She'll dose it out, grind it up, infuse the honey with it, and then let it sit for months at a time, right? Like 3 months.
Wow. Wow.
And then at the end of that 3 months, you have a pretty homogenized dosage of that honey. So where you could basically, estimate that a teaspoon is going to be, what is it? Like 0.11 grams a teaspoon.
Okay.
So just a mild effect.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Just to feel the euphoria.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And
beautiful.
It's really effective for treating all sorts of different things, as all these studies are showing, especially for veterans and people with PTSD,
depression, anxiety, stuff like that. Crazy.
Addiction issues,
Definitely.
all sorts of stuff.
And it's funny. People that do have addiction issues actually say that they've done mushrooms and like they've been off of it, like
exactly.
That was it.
Yeah, you could do a one big fat macro dose.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, you're like, I never want to touch alcohol again.
Yep.
It's
true.
Yeah,
this is true, and that I think goes back to like the spiritual side of everything. I think marijuana and mushrooms do have a very similar spiritual effect in that way of opening up your mind and just being creative, stuff like that. Talk more about that. Like how does that for you opened up your spirituality? Like I know you said you're very connected to the plant anyway, but like how has mushrooms helped maybe open up?
Yeah. So mushrooms. That was something I used to dabble in a lot as a younger guy, right?
Okay.
And the last time I actually did like a big fat macro dose, I was with my brother out on the farm. I had already had kids by then, at least my daughter.
Okay.
Was married. But we were out there with my brother, trimming up weed. My dad had just gotten home from some festival, and he's like, "Hey guys, like I got these mushroom chocolates, right?"
Oh man.
And we were like, all right, we'll take one. So we took one and, keep trimming, doing our thing. We're like, 30, 40 minutes go by. We're like, Dad, we're not feeling nothing. He's like, okay, here's another one. Within that hour, we caught ourselves just hysterically laughing, and our scissors going in one hand, our bud way over here, and we're just like, whoa, what is going on? Oh my God, we are frying balls right now.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, we need to go chill outside for a little bit, and we started having the exact same hallucinations.
Really?
Yeah, and we were like singing songs, like it was so.
It must have been that strain of mushroom, whatever it was, batch.
It was something. We were on the same level.
Wow.
And it was nuts, and so that showed me right there, like there's something deeper going on to this reality that we're living in, and this is something that indigenous people and people from way back have understood for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That's why we had this relationship with these plants, because of how it has been able to show us this other reality, like base reality is consciousness, it's not this physical world we're here. This is, I don't want to call it a simulation, but it's maybe like a projection or a manifestation of that consciousness.
Absolutely.
And so being able to tap into something like this to help you understand, like, there's more to it than this right here. There's much more to it.
That's for sure.
You know, and so that's how it's affected me.
I've done it a couple of times myself, not too many, just because like I freaked myself out a couple of times. Like, maybe it took a little bit too much.
Right.
But every time that I've come down from it, I felt like I had an epiphany. You know, I'm like, wow, I understand life now. You know, like,
yes. Yeah, it's a good feeling. You know?
It definitely is. It's definitely cool. I'm interested to like. I hear going out to like the middle of the desert, middle of nowhere, and doing it could be an experience as well. So
yeah, that's the best way, you know, tapping in with nature. You know, nature is divine. You know,
that's for sure.
That's all our church.
Yeah,
you know, that's humanity's church, being out there in nature, and you will tap in better. Just looking up at the stars.
Yeah,
you know, you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
there's so much more out there.
It's true. It's true. The first time, like, because the thing that really tripped me out about mushrooms was no matter how far I got into it, I remembered everything. Like the next day, clear as day. I'm like, I can tell you minute by minute.
Yep.
But it felt like it was 3 days long, you know?
Yeah.
So the first time I was out on Long Island in Montauk, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but super nice place. I remember looking out onto the ocean and there was a crescent moon. And I could see the Pixar guy like fishing off the moon into the ocean, and I'm like, he's really there. Like, you know, I really saw him. It was crazy, and I remembered everything vividly. But obviously, I knew even in that moment that that's not real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It was magic, though.
It sure was. It sure was. Is there anything else that you want to highlight about maybe the farming side?
Yeah, totally. You know, so again, I call my cannabis terroir. And so that's a term that's used a lot in wine production.
Okay.
Right. And so that's where, you know, your specific region, climate, growing practices, they influence the flavor, the effects of whatever crop you're growing.
Okay.
And so that's what this is. You know, you got to be in the native soil, you know, in your ground, you know, without imported soil, not in a pot. It's got to be grown under the sun without artificial light.
Okay. So a lot of the time you see like sun grown on a package. That's what that means. It's outside grown weed.
Yeah, sun grown is always going to be grown under the sun. It's not necessarily terroir though, because still a lot of people will grow like in, you know, pots with imported soil.
I see what you're saying.
Well, they'll have, you know, amazing soil, but not realize that, you know, they could grow in it. You don't have to import all this soil. Yeah, so that's basically terroir.
Okay.
You know, you're growing in your native soil under the sun, you know, using your water. And it does influence the cannabinoid content. It influences, you know, your terpene production.
Potency.
The potency as well. Yep, everything.
For sure.
And the end effect. You know, again, like I think there's that energy, you know, that you get off from like a plant that's tapped in, you know, into the earth.
It's natural place. And from what I am told, up north, right in that area is like where it's the best conditions. It's like where it was supposed to be grown. Like you can go grow it anywhere else in the world and you just won't get as good of a product as you do there.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have amazing conditions. There's, you know, there's a lot of different microclimates up there too. So you get a big variation, you know, and we have a lot of mountainous farms where they'll have, you know, a different product than me, where I'm like down in a river valley.
Okay.
You know, there'll be some differences, for sure.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's an amazing area, and people have been growing there for decades and decades and decades.
That's all I've heard about is Humboldt my whole life, even living in New York. The weed came from Humboldt. You know, I'm like, all right, cool.
Right.
What have been like some of the challenges that you faced doing this?
Yeah, so I mean, the major challenges, you know, have been really, you know, legalization and the hyper-regulation of the industry, the hyper-regulation of small farmers. Again, like, you know, somebody like me who is coming from, you know, this outlaw world where I tried to stay outside of government. I didn't want to participate in that. And then having to jump in there and navigate this whole network of compliance through multiple different agencies, and government on the local level, government on the state level. You know, that's been the challenges for me. And just seeing, you know, a lot of people have not been able to cope and deal with that. The hardest part has been, seeing, friends and fellow farmers just, lose everything they have and get out of the business and just not being able to do it anymore. It's hurt our community a lot. It's hurt our county a lot.
Definitely.
The Humboldt name it doesn't resonate with people as much as it used to. Like these youngsters that are getting into it now, a lot of them are like, what's Humboldt?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of my missions too, is like to help preserve and protect that name.
Of course.
And what we built, because it is still there.
Yeah.
Here I am down here with you guys, and it's something that, is still viable and something that we need to hold on to up there and keep cultivating,
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, it definitely has to keep to its roots. It started up there. All I ever hear was stories about people. If you were going through there, you had to be doing something with marijuana. There was no other reason to be up there.
Right.
But I do hear that it's beautiful. So like that is another reason to be up there.
It is beautiful. Yeah. Probably more people come up there to see the redwoods.
I've never seen that, so I'd be super
to.
interested. I need to.
You all
I
need to. You're all invited.
I will be there. I will be there.
Awesome.
How'd you really come up with the name for this?
For the farm?
Yeah, Galactic Farms.
Okay, Galactic Farms. Okay, well, yeah, this is a crazy story. We could get into that. Okay, so, this is the farm I had started with my brother, Skyfall Humboldt.
I like it. I like it.
Awesome farm. He's still operating this one. Very similar growing.
Still exists.
This still exists.
Awesome.
Yeah, this still exists. And so when I had gotten Dad's place, I'm like, okay, well, you keep that, I'll keep this, and I'll develop this, right? And my name, I was like, what am I going to call it? How am I going to brand this? Am I going to name it after my dad? Am I going to, and I was like leaning towards like more of like my outlawish background. I was going to go with like the name Jolly Roger and have a pirate flag as like my brand, right?
Nice.
Okay, so, through the death of my dad, right, I had, crazy experiences started happening, like dreams, where I would have with my father.
Wow.
And the first one, and this is like in the middle of my grief, or like maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks after he had passed, right? And I would wake up in the morning and I'd be like, was it a dream? I'm like, no, man, he's gone. They're all gone. Like, this is reality now.
Yeah.
And so finally one night I had this dream, and I was on vacation with my wife and kids in this dream, and we were crossing the road. I wanted to make sure everybody made it across safe because it was a busy day. And I look back and I see my wife, my daughter, my son, and behind my son I see my dad, with this long blonde hair blowing in the wind and big old smile on his face and his piercing blue eyes. And I'm like, Dad, what the f are you doing here, man? Like, you just died. You're dead. And he just walks up to me, big smile still on his face, and he puts his hands on my shoulders and he says, no, Indy, there is no death. There is no death.
Wow.
And I'm like, there's no death? And he just smiles and shakes his head, right? So I wake up, that was a profound dream. I'm like, what the hell just happened there?
Yeah.
Right? So I started having more and more dreams with him after that. And then I started seeing crazy shit in the sky. Like lights that I felt like were responding to my thought,
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, is that a satellite? I'm like, no, it just sped up, and then it would speed up. I'm like, oh my God, it did speed up. I'm like, holy, is it coming back?
Yeah.
Then it would come back to me, right? I'm like, this is no satellite, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so this stuff started happening like pretty often. And then I had another dream where I'm looking out my bedroom window, and I'm feeling this pulsing vibration, and I could hear it, and it's just going vroom, vroom, vroom. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And then I see something coming across the sky, like this ship, and it's ripping a tear in the blue sky, and through it I could see outer space.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And the tear is like lined with fire.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
Are they like destroying the planet? Are they like taking our atmosphere? Like, these thoughts are going off in my head in a dream, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden from the other side, from the south, I see another ship, like this white gleaming ship with like a beam of white light as far as you could see, coming to stop it. And I'm like, oh, it's going to stop it. And this whole time I'm feeling this pulsing vibration, right? And I'm like, this cannot be really happening. I look over my shoulder, and there was my dad. I'm like, Dad, you're here. Is this real? And he says, yes, this is real. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I wake up after that. And again, it's like, what the hell is going on here, right? And flash forward about 6 months. And mind you, I'm still having, like, I'm seeing stuff. I'm still having these dreams with my dad. You know, amazing dreams. Amazing, like, where we're able to hug. You know, I'm able to ask him, Dad, what's the meaning to life?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what do you want the meaning of life to be?
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, mic drop.
It's deep,
You know?
deep in the dream.
Right. And so flash forward about 6 months. It's like, you know, almost 10 p.m. I'm going out to do all my little farm chores, put up the chickens, cover my greenhouse so I don't have light pollution, you know, go lock my gate. And so I'm doing this with my dog. We've got an Irish Wolfhound. I don't know if you guys have seen an Irish Wolfhound.
Mm-hmm.
They're the tallest dogs in the world.
Really?
Yeah, he's a beast.
Beautiful.
He's
I
like
love
my
dogs.
best friend.
Uh-huh.
I'll show you guys a picture when
For
we're
sure,
done.
for sure.
His name's Barbas, right?
Okay.
So me and Barbas, we're going out. We have to walk through the orchard to shut the chickens up. And so in the orchard is where my dad passed away. And so we put a little shrine, like with a Buddha statue there, right? And so we're walking past it, get to the chicken coop, and right before I could shut the gate, Barbas jumps in the chicken coop and starts like eating chicken food out of their container. I'm like, Barbas, get the hell out of there, man. Like, I'm getting irritated with my dog. I get him out. I'm like, damn it, Barbas, you probably got chicken poop on your feet. I shut the gate, you know, latch it. I'm like, all right, let's go. We're walking back through the orchard, and I'm still like irritated at my dog.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm passing my dad's shrine, I hear this voice in my head, like say, hey, dude, calm down, take a deep breath. It's okay, he's just a dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, you're right. You're right, Dad. So I stop, put my hand on the shrine. I'm like, take some deep breaths, close my eyes, and then I open them, right? And so I've gotten pretty familiar with the sky through all this time,
Mm-hmm.
like seeing this stuff. I downloaded all these apps, like the constellation apps.
What's there? What's there?
Yeah. So
yeah.
I know the constellations, the stars, the planets now. Right. So I open my eyes and I see a star, Arcturus. It's a bright star, kind of orangish hue, and it's part of the constellation Epsilon Botis, which has, you know, a lot of legends behind it. But then right next to it, I see like an even bigger thing. Like, you know, it wasn't Jupiter, it was bigger than Jupiter, it was bigger than Venus and brighter. And I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And so I reach for my phone to pull out the app, you know, and I'm like, oh shit, I left my phone inside the house. And then all of a sudden, I'm hit with this pulsing vibration. The same thing from my dream I had about 6 months before.
Yeah.
Vroom, vroom, vroom. And it just hits me, and it goes through my body, and I could feel it all around me. I could hear it, and the atmosphere just got really thick.
Yeah.
And everything just kind of like slowed down. And I'm like, I don't even know really what, this seemed like it happened in a split second, but it was about 30 minutes.
Okay.
Right? And so as it's pulsing, I can't really take my eyes off it. I'm just locked on it. And it feels like I'm moving through water, like slow motion though. And it starts flashing red every time it pulses. Right? And after a few minutes or however long, I kind of get a little scared, like,
Yeah.
what the hell is going on here, dude?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's a medical emergency.
Yeah, is it a medical emergency? Is this a UFO about to abduct me?
Yeah,
Like, what
yeah.
the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And then it starts shooting out like these blue sparks of like electricity, like static electricity. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Tesla coil and the sound it makes, but it goes, and that's what I was hearing. And I'm seeing these blue sparks look like lightning coming off of it.
Yeah.
And I just got, I've been through some hairy stuff before in my life, right?
Sure.
And this was probably the most scared I have ever been in my life. And all of a sudden, I start going out. I start getting tunnel vision. My vision's closing in all around me. All I can see is this one tunnel you know, and it's just blackness. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to faint.
Yeah.
I'm about to pass out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not passing out right now. And then I hear this voice in my head, call your dog, call your dog. And I'm like, yeah, where is my dog? And I'm finally like able to break away from it and look around. And I'm about 150 feet away from the shrine where I first saw this thing. And I look back, and my dog is still way back over there at the shrine, and he's just frozen, looking at me.
Yeah.
And I yell his name, Barbas, Barbas, come. And he snaps out of it, runs to me. I put my hand on him. And as soon as I touched him, my vision just cleared, right?
Wow.
And the fear left, you know, I wasn't scared anymore. I'm like, holy crap, this really just happened. This is happening right now.
Yeah.
So I look back up, and it's right above me now, still shooting off these sparks, dude. And then it just starts like wobbling and kind of oscillating, like growing bigger, and then just splits into two. And then there's just these two bright lights, and one starts flying south and one starts flying north.
Jeez.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's trippy.
Exactly. It was a profound experience, man.
Yeah.
And so after that, I'm like, we're changing the name of this farm. We're going to Galactic Farms. So that's where the name came from.
Wow.
And that's why. So I've done other podcasts about that experience.
It's quite a story.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And that's, that whole, all that from the death of my father, the dreams, that experience there, my connection to the plant has really caused me to go inward and explore this whole reality that we live in a lot more. Yeah. So that's, weed is my jam and consciousness is my jam.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what has been the most eye-opening thing that you've discovered on this journey so far?
Well, as I explained earlier, I think that we are much more than these physical bodies. Yeah. We've got something inside of us that does not die, that goes on forever and ever. And we are tapped into that all the time, you know. Some people a little more than others, but anybody has this ability to tap into that sort of consciousness or spirituality, that base reality from where we come and where we go. Yeah. You know, you imagine the human being is like the yin and the yang, the spiritual and the physical together, making one being, right? And so you think of that, look at like a scale, like your thermostat set in the heat. There's polar opposites of cold, hot. It's the same thing, but on a different scale. Yep. So that's how we are. There's spiritual and there's physical, and you can adjust that thermostat. You know, it could oscillate. It doesn't have to stay. You know, there's different things you could do. Meditation, a profound experience, trauma can adjust that. Some people are already adjusted at a certain level, right? And so that's been the most profound experience and I guess revelation I've gotten through life in general. Yeah. That we're able to tap into that. So whether it's through like some daily practice of meditation, you know, cannabis can help people do that, adjust that dial a little bit and tap in to the greater reality that's out there. Yeah. That's definitely by far been my greatest takeaway from life in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
there's more.
It is true that you say that too, because I even like I'm an artist as well. So when I write music, a lot of the ideas that come to me, I feel like they're not even my ideas. You know, they're just coming through me, and I'm the vessel.
Yes, so, that's 100% right, dude. That's if you look at the work of Nikola Tesla, he said he didn't come up with all that. That all was downloaded. Exactly. So many people. You look at Jack Parsons, the father of rocketry here in America. Same thing. That all came in through a channel. He was just a vessel for that information.
Exactly. And that's why when you hear people like talking about ideas and like, oh, that was my idea, I had that idea. Maybe you did, but you didn't act on it, and now it's time for that idea. Just because you didn't come up and act on it, somebody else acted on it. So now
it still needs an outlet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to find a way out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So might as well be through you.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's a trip. Life is a trip.
How we doing on time? Pretty good. 38. All right. So is there anything else that you really want to highlight? Any shout outs you want to give?
Well, yeah. So I also do a lot of cooperative development.
Okay.
So I'm a founding member of the Cooperative Agriculture Network.
Awesome.
And we work, not just on a local level up there in Humboldt and the Emerald Triangle at large, but across the nation. So we've developed a cooperative academy that we run every single spring. And we have people from all over the country that attend this. And really, we're trying to infuse cooperation into the whole cannabis scene. Really, it's going to take for everybody, people like us in this room,
Yeah.
it's going to take collaborative and collective effort and cooperation to make something happen and something to still be sustainable for us all. So I strongly believe in that. We're going to be running this, it's called strategic doing. It's a whole kind of concept of increasing that collaboration and cooperation through different sectors and different interests, business, individuals, all working together collaboratively to tackle and solve, really complex problems that we're all facing.
Yeah.
So that's also another passion of mine. Yeah, so that's huge too. So
You're involved in a lot.
What's that?
I said you're involved in a lot. You do a lot.
I am. Yeah, I do a lot. Yeah, my wife does a lot. She's a really good example.
I'm sure, yeah. People who do a lot usually are around other people who do a lot, I've never seen someone doing nothing around someone that does a lot.
Right. Well, and speaking of that too, so that crazy experience I had that night, before that, I would never gotten involved in this. I didn't want a public face. I didn't want to be out there, I just want to stick to myself and do my own thing. And then all of a sudden, like I want to help people. I want everybody to survive. I want us all to do good.
Absolutely.
I want to see us all win.
Yep.
So that's I'm a firm in that. I'm not going back.
So I was gonna ask, who would you say like your audience is, but just everyone, community.
Yeah, I would love everybody in the world to be the audience. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Bring us all together. We're all one. And the sooner we can realize that, the sooner this world will become a better place.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Speaking of where we are now in 2025, where do you see like the industry going in 10 years?
Yeah, so I believe that eventually somebody like me who has a little farm will be able to sell directly to the consumer. Like that's still a dream for me. Anybody that's cultivating, I believe, should be able to sell direct. I don't think we should have to go through all these gate-kept, distribution systems and retailer and never even know the end user. I think we need to be able to connect personally with them. I think that's what they want. Anybody that, people would rather buy their vegetables from a farmer's market than the grocery store. It's the same thing with cannabis. And we've done stuff on the state level. Assembly Bill 1111 this last year, our second year in a row, we finally got it passed through Assembly, Senate, and got it on the governor's desk, and he vetoed it.
Oh.
He vetoed it.
Man.
So much for caring about the small family farm and the small businesses, Gavin, sit there and we had a chance where all we were asking is, can we sell at some special farmer markets? No, we can't.
That's crazy.
We weren't asking for direct to consumer shipping. We were just asking to sell at a farmer's market.
The basics.
I agree. So 10 years from now, that will be a thing. We will be able to do something like that. I think it'll become, on a national level, we'll be able to do that. As we spoke already earlier, the hemp industry is doing that.
Yes.
If we grew THC-A, we'd be able to do that right now.
100%.
We could all switch over to hemp right now.
Yeah.
We could get rid of our cannabis licenses, go to the ag department, pay like, I don't remember if it's $600 or $900 a year, flat fee, one agency, no track and trace, no metric system.
Nope.
And be able to sell directly to the consumer.
Yeah, do as you please.
That's what everybody all around the country are doing,
It's true.
So we'll be able to do it eventually.
Yeah.
There will be some parity there. And I think it's it's just a matter of time. Again, we'll see what happens with the new farm bill that's coming out, what's going to happen with this administration, as long as there's a world still in 10 years,
something will be going down.
Something will be going down.
Yeah.
There'll be good change.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, you're a small farm. So, like, has there been, like, specific challenges that you guys have faced because you are a small farm?
Yeah. I've done, branding. I've created products. I've done, like, pre-rolls. I had this really cool product called Nugs and Roses, which
like
is,
that.
thank you. It's a rose petal wrapped blunt,
Okay.
basically, and that was pretty successful. I just didn't have, as a small farmer, I don't like having overhead. I don't have really any employees at all.
Yeah.
Do everything myself. So it was a lot. To packaging, figuring out the logos, the name, branding, and then actually packing the things, putting them in the boxes, and getting them all to distribution for testing, and then getting them all to these retailers, and then getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's a problem too.
Yeah, for somebody like me who's only got 3,000 square feet, I can't take a hit.
That's
I can't
for sure.
afford to lose. I can't afford to not get paid.
Everything's got to line up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if there's no profit margin there for me, then I'm not going to pursue it.
Of course.
And so that's basically kind of what happened with all the pre-rolls and stuff like that. I just didn't see there wasn't a big enough window.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the direct to consumer thing. If, the retailer marks it up at 2.6 times.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Then there's tax.
Yeah. And then the distribution company wants like 16%.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's the profit.
It's crazy.
So how am I, just this one guy with this little farm, supposed to brand, have market presence when I'm getting taxed from the government, from the retailer, and from the distributor?
Yeah.
All that I have to jump through all these hoops.
Yep.
So of course, I could try to vertically integrate, get a micro business license, but then my property is zoned in a floodplain. So if I have to build a facility, it's got to follow all these different codes, and it's going to cost me like $10 million.
Yeah.
Why even do it?
I agree.
So that's the biggest issue as small farmers. We need a direct pathway. We need more leniency, and overall, the industry needs to not be so hyper regulated. That is by design. That is to get people like us out of the industry, so it could be handed to corporate investment types.
Exactly.
Newsom's big in with the Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has invested a lot in all these different cannabis startups and all these big names.
Yep.
That's Silicon Valley money, and they own our governor.
Yeah.
They own our government.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that could definitely be different from, like you said, people on a larger scale. But it looks like our time's just about up here, but we do appreciate your energy, your knowledge coming out here. I think people are going to sit down and watch this and learn a lot from this episode,
Yeah.
But where can they find you on social media?
So I am on Instagram, Galactic_Farms, or Mr. Indicus. That's my personal one.
Okay.
And then I'm also on Twitter, Galactic Farms. I'm probably the only cannabis Galactic farm out there. So either one of those, contact me. We also have a website.
Okay.
It's www.galactic-farms.com.
Okay.
So on there, you'll see a lot of the other products that we do, besides cannabis.
Okay.
And you could directly contact us.
I was going to say if they want to purchase. Yep. Absolutely.
Directly contact us through there. Always DM me also, Instagram or Twitter. So any of those works good for us.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's been anyone you want to highlight that's been significant in your journey?
Well, shout out to my brother, Skyfall Humble.
There you go.
My
Shout
brother,
out.
Orion. And just the organizations that are out there doing all the advocacy work that we all need done. The THC-A, Cooperative Agriculture Network, or CAN, Origins Council. These are all, and our partner organizations, Mendo Growers Alliance, Trinity Growers Alliance, Big ups to all them. Keep putting in the good fight, and that's
great.
about it.
Well, like I said before, we do appreciate you coming out. We know it may have not been the closest for you, but hey, the people needed to hear your story.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Unfortunately, this is it, but you can like, subscribe, tell your mother, your sister, your brother, anyone, come watch. There's some good knowledge going on in this podcast, and we'll see you next time.
I just had the bluest dream that you've ever seen, and I can't believe that shit was green, cause it hit so clean, and my history is a mystery. I don't give a fuck, I just hit the tree on a 5th degree. We don't pit for free. If you don't got 5, shit, get up and leave.